Welcome everybody to Inside the Outhouse, week 28, I believe it is. I'm going to share my screen with you guys real quick. Hopefully you guys can see that. Yes, can I get a yes? So this week we're doing, oh no, I'm not sharing, am I? I'll get there.
Yeah, now we can see it.
All right, so this week inside the Outhouse, a current affair from the horse's mouth, recent issues facing the outdoor community. We've done a little brief survey of our users, what small input that we've gotten. A lot of them say they're interested in current affairs, so we thought it'd be a good opportunity to do that with you guys today. I would like to thank the Outhouse crew, which is Henry, who's in the room right now, Pete, who is hopefully going to be joining us in the room, David Maskell, and Ellen Barker. And I might, if Henry's okay, I'll flip over to you for a welcome to country.
No problems. I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners all across Australia and recognise their continuing links to country and culture all throughout Australia. And I will throw back to Cherie for the intro.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Henry. All right. So to kick us off today, we're hoping to maybe get a little bit of a background of what's going on in outdoor education by state. So let's see what we have, at least two state representatives here. So if you guys don't mind giving us maybe a little overview of what's going on in your state within outdoor education. Whoever would like to go first.
Dom, you go first.
Jeez. Oh, I was just going to go ladies first there, Laurie, but okay, I'm happy to go first. I guess the big thing for Queensland particularly is we've got our two industry plans. So we've got a COVID safe plan for outdoor recreation providers and another COVID safe plan for outdoor education providers. So those two plans are approved by our Chief Health Officer. So they are a guidance document. They're basically a framework on how you can continue to operate in a COVID safe manner in Queensland. They're approved by our Chief Health Officer. So they actually have status under the legal framework that they've developed to manage COVID. So they actually are a good document as far as trying to guide that, but all they are is a framework. They don't go to the detail of every single little thing an operator needs to do, but they allow businesses to develop their own, or businesses and other organisations to develop their own COVID safe plans, operational plans that can allow them to return in a safe and correct manner. So that's the big thing. It's actually busy. Like, we've had schools just keen as mustard to get back to camp. We've had operators trying to find staff. I think David mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, saying how he's been, getting calls about working just on a casual basis, those sort of things. So things are busy. I think it's partly that term 2 was such a write-off for so many, or for basically all of us, I suppose, but also a lot of schools who recognise the absolute value of their outdoor ed program really wanting to make up for lost time. A lot of camp operators I've spoken to have told me that they've actually had really busy term 3s and term 4s, so, which is great to see. There's still been some difficulty. Like, it's been awesome the way people in the industry have responded to all of this, but it's still been, some things have been really hard. Even some of the protocols that were in the industry plan haven't been simple to comply with, so they've probably caused some difficulties. We've worked with the Chief Health Officer's people and gone back and actually sought a relaxation on one of those. One of them was the maximum group size you could have at an outdoor ed centre was 100 people, including the teachers. So it wasn't just 100 students. And that actually made it difficult for schools with larger cohorts. They actually said, well, what's the point of coming if I want to get my 180 Year 9 students coming to a camp together so they build interpersonal bonds? you're going to split them into 2 different cohorts, and they're never even allowed to talk to each other for the whole 3-5 days they're at camp. So that was a challenge. And we've gone back to the Chief Health Officer and asked for a relaxation on that, and only got that approved last week. So that's a step forward, I guess. The other things, it's not just about school camps in that space too. So holiday camps is the other one where operating under the outdoor ed plan and also the outdoor recreation activity providers plan. So they're important aspects of it as well. So that seems to be picking up a lot with that sort of area. And I think the best thing has been the way everyone's reacted and trying to make sure that everyone's doing the return to action in the best possible way. So that's the really pleasing thing from my point of view. We actually had our Outdoors Queensland Awards last Friday evening. So we did that in a virtual way, and that was really good to see and really nice to see the people who attended. And some of the nominations, you just sit back and you go, wow, you've done that this year. That's amazing. So it's pretty impressive. There's details of that on our website if anyone wants to have a look. And the other one I just wanted to mention, Pete Griffiths from Australian Camps Association asked me to just mention that they're doing a survey right now, trying to work out the financial implications of operating in a COVID safe way. So he just asked me if I could mention that today because he's unable to join us. But if it's okay with you, Cherie and Henry, I can share some details of that survey. There's a link that goes to his website. So
Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
yeah, no worries. I'll pop that in the chat. But that's about it from me. Like, if anyone has any questions about the plans or anything else, but I don't know if you want to just go to Laurie and others first.
Does anybody have any questions of Dom?
This is more just a thank you from everyone for organising the Outdoors Queensland Awards. They were a really good event. So thanks for bringing everyone together last Friday. It was a lot of fun.
No worries, mate. Thank you for joining us.
Awesome. You mentioned that there was 2 different COVID safe plans. What's the difference between the 2 of those?
So the outdoor ed plan is really more about the accommodation aspects of outdoor ed. So what we did was we tied the 2 plans together. We originally were just going to do one plan, and it got awfully complicated about the protocols required for accommodation, dining, bathrooms are very different to the protocols required for actually doing a bushwalk or a mountain bike or a paddling activity. So we split them into 2 different plans. And so what we said is in the outdoor ed plan, these are the protocols you need to basically run a camp. And we straight up said, whatever activities you're doing, do that in accordance with the outdoor recreation activity providers plan. So they tied them together, but the outdoor ed plan was more the trickier stuff that we knew health were going to have more dramas with, as far as even people sleeping together in a dorm room. That was always going to be an issue. So we put that in one plan and we put the actual activities in a separate one. So that's just the way we sort of approached it.
Wonderful. Thanks for that clarification. Did anybody else have any questions for Dom right now? All right. In that case, Laurie, would you like to share a little bit what's going on in New South Wales?
Oh, firstly, I want to know who the real Pete Smith is. We've got 2 masquerading Petes. So what's going on there? From New South Wales, firstly, Dom's had a terms lead on New South Wales because we're only back term 4. But likewise, it is all guns blazing as far as record bookings, record activity. Talking to one operator only late last week, they've actually doubled their turnover in term 1 already for any year succession to now. So biggest year on record looks like happening in 2021. That comes with its challenges, which comes around recruiting and getting our staff back. And as we know, we've got a few issues in our sector as far as the way we structure our employment, highly casualised, highly contracted. So to get a lot of that staff back into the sector has been incredibly difficult, and hence resulting in a hell of a lot of ads that are out in the marketplace right now. So what Outdoors New South Wales and ACT has done is put together a web page, which is on Facebook, which is totally around job adverts and working in the sector. It's actually gone ballistic. I didn't expect it to go as well as it has, but that just shows you the need out there at the moment. I think the last look today, since I set it up, which was only a couple of weeks ago, we've had 30,000 engagements on the site. So it's certainly the place to go if you're wanting staff, or you've got people that want to find work in the sector, and we'll continue to build on that. But as part of that, we've had a lot of discussions around traineeships, and we're working with TAFE to get some more flexible models of traineeships for the sector going as well. The really, I suppose, exciting news is that we can now co-host a trainee. So a lot of our sector is made up of small businesses, and that means that we can help match hosts together to give a holistic experience for that trainee in multiple businesses. So yeah, something that I don't think people knew actually existed, but yeah, we can help facilitate that. As a result of the recruiting exercise too, we're doing a lot of, and thank you, Pete, for that, hence Cherie. Just on that, we're trying to do a lot of career pathing in what the sector looks like, so people can understand if they enter the sector, what could that look like for their future. So a big piece of work that we're doing internally here. In conjunction with that, we're getting a lot of exposure that we haven't had in the past for the sector. So there's companies out there like Study Work Grow, Year 13. They're all talking to school leavers and people that are looking at career choice. And pleased to say we've had quite a bit of focus from them on how the sector is up there in lights with everything else. So that's been good, and it'll continue to go. So we'll continue to push it out there and see that Outdoors is up there with everyone else. COVID plans, like Dom, I've been checking COVID plans for some of our operators to make sure that they're doing as much as they can. As I keep saying to them, you know, it's not necessarily a COVID case in their business that's going to affect just their business. It's going to affect the region. It's going to affect the sector. So we've got to work together and make sure that we try to risk mitigate any potential COVID transmission whatsoever. So yeah, a bit of work in that area. I suppose the other thing that's come to light, and poor Queensland, whoever caught that hailstorm yesterday, was it yesterday or the day before? My Lord, our severe weather is going to only get worse. And my risk management committee, which is part of Outdoors New South Wales and ACT, has looked at the severe weather guidance note that Victoria did some years ago, I think 2009. We're updating that at the moment. We hope to get it out in the next couple of weeks to the sector. So that we start planning a little bit better for some of these instances, and hopefully give tools to the sector. The other issue I wanted to just talk about, which I alluded to in Dom's group on Friday, was around the Duke of Ed program, and I'm really keen to hear from anyone that may be affected in this. The Duke of Ed concessions that are being put forward due to COVID apparently are reducing what the candidates have to do to get their awards, which then has a flow-on effect to what our operators are financially paid for. So I think it's a 40% reduction in what they have to do out in the field to get their awards, which obviously then hence is a 40% reduction on the income or the turnover that they'd be getting as an operator. So I understand it as a national concession. It's right across the board. So yeah, just really interested to hear from anyone if it's affecting them, because I'm taking that to Duke of Ed to see what we can do about trying to because the actual concessions are in place until mid next year, which means that if anyone rolls before the end of July next year, they only have to do 40% of the field work. So yeah, if you've got any content there, please let me know. And Aaron, I've got your question here. 2021 is looking good. So the feedback from the survey that went out, it actually, I think everyone's dying to see everyone face to face. We may not have Queensland borders open by then, but we will certainly aim to have it in September 2021. And the planning is going quite well.
That's in your hands too, Laurie. You just have to make sure you don't have any cases. You've got to follow the leads of the Victorians. They've had no cases for a few days in a row now.
Oh,
come on.
I'll have to refer to Gladys on that one.
Get my Victorianness going on again. There we go.
Cool. But yeah, if anyone's got any questions about anything that I just rabbited on about, please feel free to ask. As you've probably seen, there's a lot going on right now, but there's a lot of good work being done that will hopefully set us up for a more sustainable future. We're seeing a bit of a peak in growth, but we've got to put the tools in place now to make sure that that's going to continue on into the future.
I'd just like to start by thanking Laurie for all the hard work you've been putting in to make this happen, because I know at one point, I think they were saying, Gladys was saying that we weren't going to see any outdoor ed for a very long time. And now the fact that we're open, I think that's a testament to Outdoors New South Wales and ACT and kind of what you guys have been pushing for. So I really appreciate that.
True. Yeah, it was a team effort, but yeah, we finally got there with 24 hours to spare. So it was good.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the conference next year, did you say whether it was going to be face-to-face or online, or maybe will there be online components?
We're looking at just face-to-face at this point in time. The survey results certainly did favour just face-to-face, but that will be based on borders because we don't want to exclude our Queensland counterparts nor our Victorian counterparts. So yeah, we'll keep monitoring that, but we're hoping that it'll be face-to-face.
Cherie, did you want me to do a little bit more, like just from discussions, like from the other states, or if anyone else wants to chime in, like happy to add to some of that as well if you want.
Yeah, I mean, if you know what's going on in some of the other states, that would be great to share.
Yeah, I guess just from discussions with the other sibling organisations around the country and different people, particularly WA. So Jamie Bennett certainly, said how much things back over there are pretty much chugging along as per normal. They're busy. Their outdoor ed centres are actually going well. Like he said, the biggest thing over there, and they were operating before we were, so up here in Queensland. So WA certainly got back to full steam ahead pretty quickly. And the same with South Australia. They seem to be really going quite hard down there. The Tasmanian situation is quite unusual, considering just about no cases of COVID for a long time. They have not gone back to school camps yet. So Tasmania is still a bit of a strange proposition, I think. So I'm not sure what's going on there. I know that Pete from the Australian Camps Association and also Graham from Christian Venues Association have both been working. So we don't have that direct link down to Tassie, but I know there's work going on as far as trying to advocate for the return of school camps in Tassie. I'm happy to hand over from any of the Victorians on the line. I know, Aaron, if you wanted to speak up on the Victorian situation, but I've certainly been talking to Andrew Knight quite regularly and also Pete regarding what's going on in Victoria.
Yeah, I don't have much knowledge about what's going on with Outdoors Vic. Might be worth if anyone else has got any closer connections to it, to speak up. But, restrictions are starting to lift. Programs have returned to some organisations in regional areas. In terms of the Melbourne, we get to travel again from the 8th of November. So, we're hoping for some return of programs for city schools to go back out. I'm VU running programs again from mid-November. So we're going to have a very busy end of the year over the next few months to catch up on everything that we need to catch up on. But yeah, that's kind of how things are going, at least generically.
Oh, that's awesome. I know there's a couple of Victorians in the room, and I can hear their ecstatic excitement of the prospect of being able to leave your house and go places. Awesome.
Sharia, I think it's probably hit a lot of outdoor people even harder, because it is a normal thing for some of our people. I'm sure it's affected us even more than it's affected other people across the community. We know it's affected a lot of people in really bad ways, but yeah, it's hats off to everyone down there who's made those huge efforts to actually contribute to what's going on. It's pretty amazing. Well done.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, Dom. I can only imagine. I do have some friends down there. I know it's been rather hard on them. So kudos to them for sticking to protecting others. So good for them. Awesome. Well, thanks guys for kind of those updates. If anybody does have any questions throughout, just let us know. So the second part of this, guys, is we kind of want to hear from you of what's going on and maybe some of the challenges that we're now facing. And I might start off by shooting to somebody I know who's facing a challenge. My friend Amy from Tom Marie Coastal Adventures. If you just want to start us off a little bit of what kind of challenges you're facing currently, and then maybe if anybody has any suggestions in the group, or if somebody here just knows somebody who might be able to help out, this is a great forum for us to kind of share that information. Did we lose her? Amy, you're good.
Well, I've already talked to Laurie about this, and she's given me a few contacts. Can you hear me or not? Yeah. So yeah, I've already talked to Laurie about this, and she's given me a few contacts, but I've had to temporarily stop my business because I can't get insurance. Well, affordable insurance, I should say. What I paid last year was about $1,500, and the quote for this year is $7,000, which is just ridiculous.
I know that there was something happening with insurance, freelancers or something, but there was a group. I know that when I was looking at insurance about 12 months ago for Abseil and rock climbing, it was becoming cost prohibitive, and I couldn't get professional indemnity, so it was going to be very difficult to do what I wanted to do as well. So I can empathise.
Sheree, it might help if we just set a bit of a picture on what the insurance sector's makeup is to help articulate why it is what it is at the moment. And as Amy said, I'm working with her on some of the contacts that might be able to help her in getting something a little bit more competitive. And she attended a session that I had last Friday too, which talked about a mutual. And if there was a potential to get that up. That is obviously long-term thinking, because the mutual is only just a bubble at the moment. It takes a long while to get something up like that with the amount of protection that it needs for everyone. But yeah, the insurance sector works off the markets, and where it makes its money is off the stock market mostly. So as everyone knows, the stock market's not doing so well right now, which then puts a more risk aversion into their, I suppose, guidelines on what they will insure and what they won't. So they need to make it worth their while. i.e. they charge more. So that generically, I'm really generalizing. Obviously there's a lot more to it than that, but certainly when Dom and I've been talking to some of the insurance brokers, that is pretty much why we see a lot of increases in premiums, but also a risk aversion to taking on some of our activities. A larger part is our perception as a risky activity, when we know that we have probably less incidents than, you know, a hockey match or a soccer match or whatever the case may be. So we're trying to do a lot of work behind the scenes in engaging that sector, particularly to understand us a lot more, which is how I came across the guys that are setting up the mutual. But yeah, I just thought it might help to set some perspective around why this is an issue right now, because it's very much driven around market success, and we're not in a good place across the world for that right now.
Can I make a suggestion? Hello, everyone. Perhaps, Amy, maybe getting some data around, I guess, the low level of risk in the type of outdoor activities that we run, and perhaps suggesting, presenting that to would-be insurance providers. You may have already done that, but I think if we show people how low risk and how safe our industry really is, then I think we can perhaps reduce insurance premiums, not just but across the sector in general.
Would that be like what is it called, uploads? Does uploads have that type of information?
Well, that's one example of where you can get statistics. Yes, there's quite a large bank of data that's been collected since, I think, about 2013 in the Uploads project, which is out of University of the Sunshine Coast, and they're a very nice bunch of people, and the data is readily available.
I'll be keen to hear from Becky on this one.
Hi everyone, sorry. Let me just turn my video on. Okay. I'm not sure I have a lot to add. I'm actually haven't, Aaron, was that Aaron who asked? Yeah, I haven't been involved with the insurance side of things, Aaron, with OEG. So I haven't heard of any issues, but I can find out. And then we are OEG is very heavily involved with the Uploads project. So I do know that there's quite a lot of data banking up and would be something that team has probably got in the works through the University of Sunshine Coast, I think it was, and Claire Dallett in particular.
Awesome, thanks for that, Becky. I think it's important to note too.
So, not being more specific.
Sorry, I'm not sure if it's just my computer that's lagging or if it's other people's computers lagging. Well, I just was going to say that I think it's important to note that, like, the difference between the OEG being able to handle an increase like that in insurance versus a smaller company that or like a sole trader type company that can't necessarily handle, you know, a couple $1,000s to OEG probably isn't near as much to a couple $1,000s to a sole trader. So just something to point out.
Absolutely. I think it's an industry-wide something to be looking at, because particularly that risk aversion kind of side of things is going to be what's affecting everybody.
I think the other thing is looking at the specialist brokers as well. I know Affinity were the people that I was trying to go through. They seem to have a couple of people who are specialised in doing the outdoor adventure activities. So they may be able to be a good point of reference as well.
One thing that we have been getting feedback from the from insurance brokers is about adoption of the adventure activity standards. So they've been very supportive of that and quite you know, open to the idea of, you know, well, reassessing based on operators who have committed to following and complying with the adventure activity standards. It's a bit of a funny one because it is a voluntary standard, but if insurers jump up and down and say we're not going to insure you for a reasonable premium if you don't follow it, it actually can be a de facto compulsory thing. So it's actually something we have to keep an eye on, but it's, I guess, part of the Australian Adventure Activity Standards project was about getting people right across the outdoor sector to contribute to what is good practice for our sector. So that's the value in those documents. So I think, you know, that's actually a part of it on as far as what's the value in the adventure activity standards there too and how it can help you.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that with us, Amy. I appreciate it. Does anybody else have any current issues that they're facing or something that they didn't expect in our changing world and changing futures?
Guys, I've got to head out. Thank you so much for this today. So I'll just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining, Aaron.
Come on, Aaron. You just wanted to just let us know you could head out, mate.
Nice one, Dom.
See you, mate.
I don't know whether other people are dealing with this issue, but I'll bring it up anyway. I think as I work for a range of different organisations, from universities to smaller organisations to schools, I think throughout the post COVID safe plans having come out, I think the way those COVID organisations and then how that information is disseminated or perhaps not disseminated to staff who have to walk into those organisations and be both COVID compliant and understand how they're supposed to operate within those organisations. And I was just wondering if anyone else had experienced sort of, shall we say, different things happening within different parts of.
Pete, I've certainly heard stories about such things. I haven't experienced it firsthand, but I think this is a key part of it. This is, I think, a little bit going to happen as far as different people putting different protocols in place, but also partly because of the way our industry's always worked, that we expect everyone to just be able to walk in the door and start work, bang, without any, you know, necessarily an induction when you get there and a site-specific training program on the protocols at that site, which could take an hour, but generally it's, yeah, turn up 15 minutes before your program starts and get to work. And I think that's actually a real challenge, and it's probably a weakness that's been in our systems for a long time. It's not really about COVID. That's also about how things have been expected, that you guys who are the experienced operators can just rock up and adapt on the fly to the local environment rather than being trained for the site-specific stuff. So I think that's actually a real concern, and it's actually a worry in the COVID setting as well.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dom. I just feel, as the person who's ultimately responsible for the people within the program context, whatever program that happens to be, I feel at times the duty of care falls with me, and I'm just wondering if that isn't, as I said, well explained by whatever organisation, what your actual role is and what level of care, then I was just wondering what people thought about that and where as a sector we perhaps need to go to potentially do it differently, because I agree. I think we need to actually spend the time doing the education of staff who come to unique sites so that everyone is actually aware of what the procedures and protocols are on those sites.
But I think it may also get down to, like from a legal sense, who is considered a PCBU of the organisation that you're working for. And I would think that under most circumstances, the actual individual instructor wouldn't be classified as a PCBU. So even though you might have to be implementing whatever COVID safe plans the organisation does or doesn't tell you about, which is maybe something that they need to figure out. I don't think, even though obviously every instructor has a duty of care, I think that like by an organisation not giving you the proper training on their site-specific procedures, they're the ones that are at like any type of legal risk. But I think there probably is a wider conversation, as both you and Dom mentioned, about getting people outside of just kind of covering everyone's backside to actually empower people to work better wherever you're going, and for, you know, those short-term arrangements where you might come in and do 1 or 2 programs with a company. I think there'd be a lot of value outside of just kind of covering risk to actually empowering people to know what each company, like how you want that company to work and what you want, you know, us as instructors to do for the company.
I think the other aspect of that, Henry, is also empowering staff, whether they're there for 1 day or forever, to be able to put their hand up and go, hang on a second, you know, and that's really difficult in that sort of situation where it is literally turning up just to do a program. That's where it's really hard to say, well, hang on, you haven't trained me, you haven't given me the site-specific knowledge that I need to deliver a quality product here in a safe and responsible way. So that's a cultural thing, but it's a critically important thing if we want to improve our sector and have people delivering the really wonderful experiences that you guys are so good at.
Do you think that maybe there needs to be some AAAS standards released around specific COVID safe practice, like a handbook specific to that is Australia-wide?
We have looked at the opportunity of the ability to update, and we were actually thinking, rather than going specifically on COVID, we're actually going pandemic readiness, so that it then has, let's assume we don't need it, but hopefully for the next time it would actually not have to just update it again. So that sort of thing, which we didn't even think about. It was released November last year, and obviously it doesn't have the word pandemic in it, but I think the big part of that, I mean, it does have all sorts of things in the Australian Venture Activity Standards saying you've got to comply with the local laws. You know, those sort of things are in there, the overarching stuff, and this is part of that. But it would be worth having something in there about specific regarding, you know, reaction to pandemics and management of potential management of disease.
Yeah,
so
yeah, absolutely. I'm just more getting at that, like, so small businesses have a more standardized code of practice. So for casual instructors to go and, like, in lieu of not receiving training, at least like casual instructors will feel a little bit safer in delivering a program because they have sort of a framework to work to.
Yeah. In the Queensland industry plans, it specifically requires every single operator or business operator to train their staff. To train all staff have to be provided appropriate training in the COVID measures, and it's there in black and white. And if the business is saying that they're complying with that industry plan, they've got to comply with all the protocols. It's almost an honour system that's in place. There's no one going around and auditing people to make sure they're complying with it, but it actually does say that in the plan. One of the things that's critical is that staff receive training in the COVID protocols, and it doesn't sound like that's necessarily happening at every single venue, which is disappointing.
Awesome. Thanks for that insight, orator masquerading now as Pete. Does anybody else have any current issues that they're facing or anything that they've noticed? It doesn't necessarily have to be COVID related either. It could just be something that's upcoming.
Based on what Laurie said before in regards to the amount of advertising for staffing that's going on in New South Wales due to the large uptake in 2021, I'm assuming Victoria is probably going to be in a very similar situation. How do you think we're going to be able to fulfill the capacity to run all these additional programs in 2021 staff-wise?
Yeah, good point, Josh. Talking to Andrew Knight already about sort of being off on the gun pretty quickly on what we've done in the last couple of months and starting it now. Because, yeah, there's no doubt that you're going to see the same. And I think Felicia Mariani, who's the Tourism Industry Council CEO down there, even put it in an article that was in the paper yesterday about the lack of engagement that is consistent with the staff over this time. And it's not just because she represents the tourism side, but I've seen it right across New South Wales in our sector that, you know, they went on JobKeeper or JobSeeker and it was just lost contact. So we didn't keep that engagement. First things first, we need to learn from that. And if we ever go through similar circumstances, God forbid in the future, that we don't cut off that string and have to rebuild and tie another knot. We've got to keep that connection with our staff going. But yeah, I think Andrew's already got his head around what he needs to do and get ready to be that support for the industry. He was involved with me when we did the Seek portal together. So Andrew and myself got the guys from Seek to create that outdoor portal. So if anyone's advertising on Seek, all they need to do is send Andrew or I their Seek ID and we'll get it loaded up into that portal, so it's all in one spot. But you know, a lot of people aren't on Seek, so hence the Facebook, hence all the promotion that we've been doing, and it's certainly paying its dividends there. So I think learning from that particularly. But yeah, if anyone else has got more suggestions, I'm happy to hit the ground running and start with whatever you come up with, and I'm sure Andrew will too.
I actually do have a question building off that. I know a lot of my friends in uni have a lot of emphasis put on them to use LinkedIn as a way of connecting with industry professionals. I haven't heard of the outdoor industry really utilizing that. It's more like this, right? Like it's like face-to-face. Do people use that? Is that a point of connection?
Mads, I love you. Okay, I've been trying to get everyone on LinkedIn myself. I've got a page up there. I've been pushing everything and I've got no engagement because you're right, none of them are on it. It's a platform that, yeah, and we're not seen because of that. You know, I talked before about our awareness as a sector. And it's this sort of stuff that we've really got to get everyone using and building on because, yeah, we've got to work together on this. Yeah, but yeah, jump on and hook up to my page. I think Dom's got a page there as well. We need to work together on this. We can't keep screaming on our own because no one can hear us.
I'm a non-LinkedIn. One of my board members told me a couple of years ago, he said, every time someone starts a LinkedIn page, it means they're looking for a job. So he's fairly convinced that if I started a LinkedIn page, I'll be jumping ship. And I've gone, oh, that's an interesting attitude. But yeah, I've never used it. And I get requests from different people and I don't know. It's not my world. Sorry, Laura.
That's all right. That's okay. But if I could do the advert for LinkedIn, seriously, there's some great conversations in articles on it that you can tag into and even start articles. I start one every month religiously for hours so you can see what we're doing. But yeah, it is a great tool. And you're right, people are on there for jobs, but that's what we want. So we want people to engage in our jobs, which is great.
I'll tout for LinkedIn as well. It's a great way to network as well. And thanks to people like Lori, I've made a lot of connections in my area, and a lot of them I've been able to connect to through LinkedIn. So I definitely think it's helpful, whether you're looking for a job or just looking for people to connect with in your community or within the outdoor community. One thing I will say that it was really confusing to me, like when I came to Australia, because there's not one place to look for job adverts. There's like 10 places, and then there's all these random weird ones so it's really hard to find jobs. So I think it's great that we're now starting to put these in specific areas that make it a little bit easier to find. I think that's really great. It's going to be really good for the sector as well, for outdoor people and people coming into the community to be able to have a place to look for this. And I think that's one thing we need to keep in mind too, is that the younger generation is all about the computer, and regardless of whether outdoor people or not, we need to be able to evolve with that culture and evolve with the fact that people are going to go to online stuff, and you can be an online person and a nature person.
It's quite interesting that you say that, because I have a TikTok account, right? And I actually follow this lady in America that's advocating for helping other women get into the outdoors. And she literally has like people message her on her TikTok account, and she puts up advice, and she has created a job board to help them like get into the outdoors, even if they don't necessarily have a qualification, which I think is like really, really cool thing.
That's awesome. So the company that I recently started, sorry.
No, sorry, Sherry. I was just about to say, the good thing about LinkedIn, I know that Becky and Henry are looking at me right now on that site.
Yes, you do. That's the only thing about that people do know when you look at them. And so you do have to be a little bit cautious about who you're looking at, but it's good too. Well, I was saying that the company I'm working for now, Nature Philosophy, one thing I'm really impressed with them, they're super into nature connection, but they're very, very strong advocates for their online profile. They have, not LinkedIn, but they have Facebook, they have Instagram, they post constantly. A lot of their programs are about nature connection, but they're also about teaching people business aspects of how to run a business online, which I'm really impressed at, that kind of, juxtaposition of those two things coming together. It can come together really well.
Perhaps not a great argument for LinkedIn, but because they have all the other socials except LinkedIn.
Well, we've got about, looks like 10 minutes left here. So if there's any other pressing issues that anybody has on their mind or something they would like to ask the group about.
One other thing, I don't know, sure it's super relevant here, but just to let you know, Laurie and I have also been involved in the ACARA review of the HPE, the Health Physical Education National Curriculum. So there's some meetings going on at the minute. So we were on one of them earlier today, another wonderful webinar. And there's certainly that process of trying to make sure that outdoor activities are well and truly included in the national curriculum. So that's a bit of work that's going on. It probably won't come in until 2022 is the likely time frame, but there'll be consultation going on in the background, and then I think there's going to be some broader public consultation next year, Laurie. I missed some of those dates, so that is going on as well. There's also Peter McKenna from Outdoor Educators Association was on that call too, so Peter's involved, and other people as well, including Tonya Gray. So it's a pretty good, it's a big group of people. Like there's a lot of traditional phys ed teachers, that sort of thing as well, but we're certainly there trying to represent the outdoor ed side of things as well in that space.
Yeah, and thanks, Don. I just want to end that by saying the challenge New South Wales has is that we don't follow ACARA. So our lovely Department of Education, NESA, basically say that they're going to do their own thing, but they do try to hear what ACARA's got to say. So I'll be doing double the advocacy to make sure New South Wales tries to carry that on. But yeah, we're unique. What can I say?
Awesome, guys. Well, thanks for your input. I will take this time to mention the survey that Inside the Outhouse is currently doing. We're trying to find ways to make sure that our purpose here is being met, and the purpose is the needs of the community. So if you guys wouldn't mind sharing or answering the survey yourself, it'll give us some greater insight into kind of the topics that we want to talk about, what people are interested in. And one big thing is maybe timing, and whether we would want to consider changing the time of today's event so that it's a little bit better access for everyone. So if you guys can go on there and have your say kind of in what you'd like to see here. Once again, I kind of got today's topic from that survey, so that's been really helpful. And so hopefully we can use that to kind of spur on some of our future sessions. Right. Awesome. Well, Pete or Henry, do you have anything to add for today?
Oh yeah, I'm going to add a couple of things. I'd just like to thank everyone for those folks who have filled out the survey, and for all your kind and heartfelt comments about what a great resource this is for the community. And I read the survey and was incredibly uplifted, and am reaching for the rooftops as we speak, just as a result of the survey. So if we could sort of triple the participation, that would make me even better, even more ecstatic.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Pete. So all the kind of, I'm going to take the chat down today, and all the links that we posted, I'll probably post again on Facebook and then possibly on our website. Do keep in mind that we do post all of our videos onto our website and onto the Facebook, so you guys can check them out afterwards. So if you know of a certain topic that maybe somebody's interested in, you can always direct them towards our website or the Facebook page and just kind of get them involved that way. We think it's great if people watch these videos afterwards. You don't have to watch them right away. And a lot of hard work goes into them, so we really appreciate that. Awesome. Well, if we have nothing else to add to the official session, I think I'll go ahead and bring our session to a close today. Thanks everyone for being involved.